All right, hi everyone, thank you for coming. This is Note-Taking Skills. My name is Lindsey Martin. I'm a part-time tutor here at the Tutoring Center. All right, so we're going to look first at textbook note-taking. All right, so I kind of split it up into textbook and classroom note-taking.
That's amazing.
All right, so the first tip I have for you is to skim the textbook before the lecture. All right, just to get a brief overview before going into it. So you can kind of ask yourself questions like, what will be presented in class? Is this material of great importance? Can this topic be explained more concisely? And can this topic be explained in greater detail? So for tip 2, you want to set your notes up for success. Organize your notes in a one-subject notebook. So I know a lot of students will get like a big notebook and just put all their classes in it because it's much easier. You only have to carry one notebook. That gets very confusing. So just keep it one subject. Okay? Include the date and page numbers just in case anything happens, your notes get out of order. All right? Create an outline before reading. So this is when you're going to kind of skim through the chapter. Look at the chapter title, headings, subheadings, things like that. So really just give yourself an outline, A, B, C, this is what we're going to go through. And then that way as you read, you can just fill in items that you think are important. But sort of give yourself that skeleton first. Use phrases and abbreviations, but just make sure you're consistent. So if you want to abbreviate something, just make sure you keep that same abbreviation throughout all of your notes so you don't get confused. Keep your notes concise. So it's way easier to remember, one line than writing yourself a paragraph. That's a lot to take in. And then handwrite or type depending on your preference. So I know a lot of professors say to handwrite. I know that there's been studies that actually writing helps you remember better. I always type, so I have a tablet. I would always take it to class with me. Typing, I just type faster and I was more comfortable typing. So it's really whatever will help you out best. Okay, so as you're starting to fill in this outline, make sure you understand what you're reading. So use the glossary. Your book will give you bold-faced text with the definition, but sometimes the glossary actually goes into more detail or less detail, kind of just presents the term in a different way. So just check both. Okay, go to the index. So if you see a word, look it up in the index. It might have been presented in an earlier chapter. All right, so then you can kind of compare each page and kind of relate old information to new information, which is helpful. And then pay attention to pictures and graphs because that's usually of high importance, or it could be a more confusing topic so that the people that write the textbooks kind of want to make it more visual. So make sure you don't skip through those. All right, so like I said, now we're going to fill in the outline. So we have headings, the subheadings. Make sure you're writing down any bold-faced text, definitions, and examples. So this is still all before you get to class. If you can find the time, this is great. That way, when you get to lecture, you can follow along with it.
Oh, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And I see she's writing, so whenever you're done. It's good?
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, so then tip number 5, apply what you know. So like I said before, new material often builds on the foundation of older material. So review relevant examples and create your own examples. So as you're reading, if you see an example in the book, try to memorize it, but try to relate it to something that you know, right? So if you like video games, say, try to relate it to a video game you know, information that will kind of help you remember it. That way when it's presented in class, you're like, oh yeah, I remember reading that. Compare and contrast previous material. This is not like what I read before because, or what I just read is related to what I learned in the last chapter. I think that they have something to do with each other. They might have a cause and effect relationship.
Yeah.
Sorry, were you still writing? Want me to go back?
Oh, no, I'm perfect.
Okay. All right, so that's beforehand. So I know it's hard to find the time, but like I said, if you can, just make it really concise, very brief. So now you're in the classroom. So now what are you going to do? Repetition is key. So rewrite material from the board even if it's already in your outline that you already wrote. Okay? Write down everything that your professor says. Granted, if they're talking about their daughter and how their daughter just got into college, you don't have to write that down. But you can tell what's important, okay? Write down everything, whether you believe it is of importance or not. Why? Because a lot of times the textbook is hard to understand. Okay, we know that. Your professor is more likely to explain it in a way that you can understand. So what you got from your outline and your textbook notes, your professor might word it in a way that helps you better understand it. So even if you say, well, I already wrote that definition, I already read it in the book. Well, the way your professor presented it might really help you. So that's why I write down everything. It's not bad to have double. It's not. Because I'm going to show you later that we're going to wind up comparing both types of notes. And then ask your professor if you're able to tape record the lecture. A lot of students don't know that you can do that, but you just have to ask permission. You can't record them without their permission, but a lot of professors will let you record them if you bring a tape recorder. So that's nice because that way if you miss something, or say your professor talks very fast, like me right now, okay, it's hard to take notes. So that way you can go through your notes, see what you missed as you're listening, and fill in the blanks. All right, learn to read your professor. So sometimes I hear, well, I don't know what the professor's saying during lecture. I don't know what's important. You know, they don't really say this will be on the exam. Okay, so pay close attention to time. How much time do they spend on a certain topic? If they spend a lot of time on it, that's something important, right? They're not going to spend a lot of time on something that they don't really want you to remember. Examples, a lot of times we'll write on the board. If they do examples, or if you see that it's on your quiz or your practice problems, it's more likely to be on your exam. Emphasis and repetition, all right? So they will keep repeating stuff that they want you to know. Some professors won't say, hey, this will be on the exam, but they'll keep repeating it to kind of give you hints. They don't want to just come out and say it, right? They're not just going to give you the exam questions. Tone of voice and body gesture. So I think I talked about this in the last workshop. Your professor, some of them actually change their voice when speaking. Their voice might get higher, their voice might get lower when they know that that's very important and they have that on the exam. All right, so their voice might get really high when they talk about it. Or they might start moving their arms a lot because they're getting really excited because they know that this is really important and you guys should really understand this, right? And then usage of board. So if they're writing on the board, right? If they're drawing pictures, flow charts, write all that in your notes, all right? And supplemental materials. So if they say, watch this video, check out this other textbook, make sure you do that and take notes on all that too. Okay, and engage yourself. So this might sound silly to some people, but make your notes interesting. What happens when your professor, say, prints you out all these notes and they're just boring? Have you ever had that? You're just like, I don't even want to read this. I don't. Look at it. There's so much information, right? It's not concise. So use colored pencils. Use colored pens. Okay? Keep it consistent, like one topic, maybe write in all pink. All right? Another topic, maybe write in all blue. That especially will help because now it's breaking up information into bite-sized pieces, which helps you remember instead of this long, 8-page notes where you're like, oh, I'm reading it and nothing's happening, right? I don't remember. Yeah. Draw pictures if that helps. So flow charts are nice, like when we went back to like cause and effect relationships. So if you can kind of draw arrows and relate your notes, okay? And be aware of over highlighting. So I see a lot, especially when I'm tutoring, I say, okay, well, open up your book. Let's read through your book. And everything's highlighted. Guilty, yeah, right? I'm like, are you sure this is all important? Well, I don't know, I was just reading and it just seemed so important. I just highlighted it all. I'm like, okay, well now we're going back. And that's a lot to remember, right? What's important? I know the textbook is important, but every page can't be important, right? So a lot of times, wait. If you want to highlight and then that helps you, don't do it for your textbook notes. Wait until your professor presents the lecture and then go back. And then when you skim through, okay, the professor mentioned this. The professor spent a lot of time on it, right? The professor wrote this on the board. Then highlight. Then you really know what's important. Instead of highlighting, what I would do is I would just get a pencil. That way I could erase, especially since you can sell your textbook later, right, if there's not a lot of highlighting in it. And I would just use asterisks. So, this is semi-important. The professor briefly spoke about it. This is important. I'm going to do 2 asterisks. Or this is a must-know. The professor pretty much said you need to know this for the test. So that way you go through and you say, okay, let me maybe read over this a couple more times. Or, I'm looking at my outline. I'm looking at my textbook notes, I'm looking at my lecture notes. I know that this is a must know, I still don't get it. That way you know, maybe I should try a different textbook. Maybe I should go to the library, check out a different textbook. Maybe go online, maybe there's a video on it that can help explain it more. All right, so then here's where we're comparing notes. So you have your outline that you took before class. You have your classroom notes where you wrote everything down. Then ask yourself, look at both notes. Did I miss anything important? Right? Do these pretty much both match up? Do I need further clarification on a specific topic? Do I have any unanswered questions? So as you're looking through these, you'll probably want another sheet of paper. Hey, I read about this in the textbook. You know, the professor spoke about it. I still don't understand why this is happening. Write that down. That way next time you see a professor, just ask them. The professors are going to want to help you if you show them, okay, I took notes on the notebook, right? I took notes in class. I still don't get this. Can you help me? Yes, they're going to want to help you, okay? Did my professor stress the importance of a certain topic? Like I said before, you can notice if they're something very important. Did my professor explain the material in a more concise manner? So if you're looking at your textbook notes and you said, you know what, I'm supposed to be concise, I really went into a lot of detail, maybe I should kind of follow the lecture notes instead. What I like to do too is, so I do textbook, lecture, textbook. So I do the textbook outline, I do the lecture notes, and then I go back in the textbook and reread, and on my own, find what's important. And then you can sometimes do like a third page if you have time, just to see. Okay, and then recite and recall. So that's how you memorize. So teach yourself or someone else the material. So after you go through both sets of notes, right, let me talk to yourself. I know it's weird, but like when you're in the car driving to class, be like, okay, well, what did I learn? All of that, okay? Teach someone else. Say, hey, do you want to know about biology? Do you want to know about the Krebs cycle? Even if you don't, I'm going to tell you anyway, and just start talking. Sorry. All my examples are biology related, so turn your notes into brief summaries. So after you read through your notes, this is something I would do is, all right, I read through it. I have a new sheet of paper out, and I'm going to write a summary. Like I wrote the textbook, I'm going to write an end of chapter summary. Write it. See what you can recall on your own, and then compare and say, oh wow, I missed a lot. I really need to go back and reread because I obviously can't recall some information. I must not really understand it. And then just a reminder, you remember what you choose to remember, right? So if you're not really studying some stuff, you're not going to remember it on the test. So if it's hard, don't just brush it off and say, I just hope it's not on the exam, right? Try to remember it. All right, I have a pop quiz. All right, so I want to see who was taking notes, right? Bingo, we have one person. All right, it's very easy though. I'm not really going to quiz you guys. Don't get any test anxiety. The title of the PowerPoint presentation is what? Did anyone pay attention? Write notes?
Note-taking skills. Note-taking skills.
Oh, you're probably right, yeah. Let's see.
Yay! Okay, good. Now, here's what I have. These are actually my notes from when I took anatomy and physiology. So I want you guys to go through, you can just yell out loud, tell me some things that you think are helpful or what I said that is on my notes. Some of my tips.
The color coding.
The color coding.
Because my eyes go straight to it.
Okay, your eyes go straight to it.
Well, I don't know why it's important, or what is it telling you?
So-
What colors say to you?
So I know, right? So let's see, let me start with the top, right?
Okay.
I did the page number, right? I did the date.
Okay.
Good.
Yes.
I did the chapter, and I did the chapter title. So now I have two headings, right? The scope of anatomy and physiology, which is probably one of the first units that they go through, and the origins of biomedical science. So those are my two headings, right? So you can see how nice and concise it is, how it's nice and organized, so it's easy to follow. So then I have a subheading. Anatomy is the study of form, okay? Now I want to kind of differentiate that from the second subheading because anatomy and physiology are two very different things, okay? So I did anatomy is the study of form. So Although it's a phrase, I just want to remember anatomy, form, right?
Okay.
Physiology is the study of function. So I color-coded those two because I wanted to separate them, okay? Physiology, function. Now, why did I highlight or underline? Physiology, function.
Okay, the alliteration.
Okay.
You're going for, okay.
So now I can remember physiology. It's very funny. It's the study of function.
Right, okay.
Okay? So if I give you a pop quiz, and if I ask you the difference between anatomy and physiology, you guys could probably remember,
I
right?
can remember now, yeah.
Right? Even if you're not even nursing or biology majors, you're like, physiology and function. I know.
Okay.
Okay? Teach someone this when you leave, okay? All right, so then I did, that's very important. This is maybe less important. I'm going to see. If the professor talks about comparative anatomy, maybe I'll highlight it, maybe I'll do an asterisk next to it because I'm like, okay, this is important. But I got this in the book. Comparative anatomy studies bodies of more than one species. Why did I underline that? Comparative. You're comparing more than one, right? So when you compare things, you have more than one. So that helped me remember that comparative anatomy is more than one species, okay? Radiology is the branch of medicine concerned with imaging. If that's important, it might not be, okay? So histology is the observation of tissue specimens microscopically. Histopathology is the study of tissue for signs of disease. Well, histopathology is a big word, so I split it up. Histo means tissue. You can see I color-coded it, right?
That makes sense.
Patho is disease, and ology is the study of, but less important. So now I know. Histo, tissue, patho, disease. All right? And cytology is just a definition. I made it nice and short. Cytology, study of individual cells.
Okay.
Okay? And then, So comparative physiology. Okay? So here's one where I kind of went into. So we talked about comparative anatomy, right? So now I'm going to look at comparative physiology. I just put, two different things that I read about. I know that it's the study of biological functions of different species, and it's often the basis of new drugs and new procedures. Could that be important? Could be, could not be. My professor says, hey, we use comparative physiology because we need new drug treatments and some things might not work for certain diseases. I'm going to say, he mentioned that in class. And I might go back to these notes and say, you know what, I want to highlight that because that could be important.
All right, get an asterisk. You could get an asterisk.
Right? Yeah, I can asterisk it when I'm going back and I'm comparing notes.
Yeah.
And then, I didn't want to bore you guys and have everything, but then we would go to the next subhead. Notice here too, I put page references, okay? So that way you can go back and it's really easy to see where it was discussed in the textbook. Right, and I think that's about it.
Those are pop quiz.
But yeah, there's no pop quiz on this.
Oh, it is here.
It can be now. What is physiology? The study of
Function.
function. Okay. Does anyone have questions?
Would you say that it's more time consuming to type it or write your notes?
So it's all based off of the individual. I'm faster typing. I like typing that way. It's there for me. So back to here. As I'm typing, I can pull up the notes. So I would bring my tablet to class, and I already have my notes there. And as my professor's going through it, I'm highlighting or I'm doing the asterisk. So I'm doing this as I'm in class. So that's kind of saving me time.
So you're taking this to class with you.
Yeah. So I have my notes with me. I'm right on the computer. Like I have my tablet right over there. And as my professor would go through it, okay, my professor, so this is my outline I did from the textbook. So now I'm sitting in class now. Keep in mind, this is all just black text. Professor says, okay, anatomy is the study of form. So I go, highlight, this is going to be purple. Okay? So I'm going through, so that kind of saves me time because I could do it as I was in class instead of having to do it after class when I could spend more time maybe studying for a different topic, things like that.
After class, and it's time consuming to type it and then go back and highlight it with the colors and all that stuff.
Okay, but it still works the same if you
Maybe I should do it during.
Yeah, if you handwrite your notes and if you just invest in some highlighters or color pencils, you can do the same thing. You don't have to do it on a computer. You can just underline in purple or whatever. So that helped me. That way, you know, if I wanted to change it, if it's on the computer, it's more easy to change than having to erase, or your notes kind of become more disorganized because you're drawing hours now or you're crossing things out. So it's really just personal preference. Handwriting, I think, made me more nervous sometimes because if the professor talks really fast and you're trying to write and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm missing things. Whereas typing, I'm like, okay. Like I know I'm a faster typer, so it really just all depends.
That makes sense. I have a question actually.
Sure.
So I'm in Health Information Technology 101 right now, and my first exam contained an endless list of the history of medicine. And I was looking through this list and I'm like, all right, this is crazy. How do I know what's going to be important in this list and what isn't going to be important? And in fact, there were several questions on the exam which I had to look back. If it were a class, all my classes are online, so
Okay.
this kind of doesn't apply to me. It does a little, but my question is, would there have been a way to know, or a way to, when you have a large list of dates like that, to
Yeah.
figure out what's important and what's not? Or
So what I would do at that point, so I'd raise my hand, say, excuse me, professor, whatever their name is. There's a lot of dates here, there's a lot of historical information. Do you find this important for what we're studying? Do you want us to remember certain dates? A lot of professors, they don't care about dates. They care about the name, Hippocrates, right? He's very important in medicine.
he was on the test, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Do you want us to remember dates? A lot of times they'll tell you. If they don't tell you, then it's kind of like, I personally would just remember it because it's fair game if it's in the notes. But a lot of times, if you ask and you seem really concerned, your professor will say, no, you know what, I didn't throw the dates in. It's silly to make you remember all those dates. You know, you're not in a history class.
Right.
So
Okay, so just ask the professor.
ask the professor.
Okay.
If not, I would just make flashcards, things like that. Okay, Hippocrates this year, just to kind of have an idea. Kind of just break it up, because like I said, if it's that long list, you look at that, you're like, I don't remember this. I
Right,
really
it's
don't.
like, yeah, and some of them are significant advances in medical history, some of them are not.
Mhm.
So it's like,
So yeah, I would use your best judgment for them and say, you know,
okay.
like Hippocrates, he's important. I definitely should know his date, just in case. Might be on it, might not, but he's very important. Where others, they're like semi-important, you know?
Okay, the key I'm seeing you keep kind of repeating is look for the key players or the
Mhm.
major,
Yes,
most important
yes.
aspects of what you need to learn.
Yep,
Okay, thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Get
Yeah.
that next time.
Anything else? That's it? Okay. Okay, well, thank you for coming.